Hey everybody, welcome to Frequency 140. It's finally WrestleMania weekend. So to commemorate that, I figured what better way than to actually rank all 40 WrestleManias. Now how I'm going to do that, so this ain't no 10-hour video, I have a tier list and I got it in 5 different categories. One being epic, damn good, middle of the road, barely passable, and who the hell booked this? And to kind of make it quick, I'm just going to go through, kind of highlight some things, and I'll tell you whether or not it's worth your time to watch. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. All right, so first off with WrestleMania 1, it is important. It is something you should go watch just for the historical purposes of it, but the problem is it's not really that great of a Mania. It's kind of a drag to get through. I think the longest match on here is like 12 minutes. Now, the best match of the night for sure is Hulk Hogan, Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. But other than that, it's pretty much a lot of pomp and circumstance. We got the celebrities running around everywhere. And honestly, if it wasn't the first one, I probably would have put it in Who the Hell Booked This. So, we're going on to WrestleMania 2. And a lot of people, they give a lot of other WrestleManias that we'll get to in a minute and saying that they're the worst ones. WrestleMania 2 might be the worst WrestleMania. I mean, number one, it was a disaster. They wanted to do it in 3 different cities. And in one of the cities, you only got 12 minutes of ring time. Like, imagine that. You spend all that money to get a WrestleMania ticket, and you got 12 minutes, and the rest of the pay-per-view you got to watch on a big screen? No. I mean, aside from the kind of fun battle royal with the NFL players and a decent main event with Hogan and King Kong Bundy, there really ain't much to say here, so I got to put it in Who the Hell Booked This. So we're going on to WrestleMania 3. Now, the disaster of the WrestleMania 2 was they learned their lesson finally, and then we finally get this one. This is a one that feels like WrestleMania, finally. The big spectacle, there's 93,000 people. Well, we all know what the actual number was, but that's okay. 93,000. And you got a pretty good card here. You got Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat for the Intercontinental title, which is widely regarded as one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. And of course, the main event being the immortal Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. I mean, that match is iconic. It's more historical. And he had a barn burner, but when he slams Andre, it is a very, very cool WrestleMania moment. And just for that, it's worth watching. And also, you get a good match with the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation with Danny Davis and Tito Santana. So, I mean, I'm going to put this in middle of the road. Honestly, I think that's a fair place to put that. We're going on to WrestleMania 4. Now, this one, a lot of people don't like it because it had the tournament aspect of it, and it was like 16 matches, and I see what people are saying there. But I actually really kind of enjoyed this. But I do see where someone wouldn't, because there's not a lot of time given to the matches. Also, this is kind of booked around Hogan and Andre again. Even though they were in the first round, Hogan hits Andre with a chair, and somehow they're both disqualified. Never quite got that. Never understood why Andre wasn't allowed to go into the round, because that has never been a rule in professional wrestling, except for probably that night. But the ending was great, man. We get Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ted DiBiase for the World Championship, and we finally get Macho Man as champion. And also a moment where everybody's thinking, Hogan, get the hell out of the ring. So for this one, I'm gonna put middle of the road again. So we get WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers explode. And this WrestleMania also gets crapped on a lot. I mean, the main event was really good to me. It's one of the better Hogan matches you'll find at a Mania. In the card, you would also have Jake Roberts versus Andre the Giant. Again, it's not a technical masterpiece by no means, but it's still kind of fun to watch. And then Rick Rude versus the Ultimate Warrior, and that was a really good match. You got the Rockers versus the Twin Towers. Then you got Demolition versus the Powers of Pain, and then Brainbusters versus Strike Force, which all 3 are pretty good matches. So I'm actually going to put this in damn good. So we're going on to WrestleMania 6, and it's the Ultimate Challenge. The main event is the Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, and to me, the best WrestleMania match that Hogan's ever had. But the problem is, the rest of the card ain't much to talk about. It's a very, one match WrestleMania to me. Now, we would get, Ted DiBiase versus Jake the Snake, which was not bad at all. And we would get Dusty Rhodes versus the Macho Man, which is pretty cool, but, I mean, as for the rest of it, I don't know. If it wasn't for how good the main event is, I would put it in barely passable. But since the main event's that good, I'm going to put it in the middle of the road. So we're going into WrestleMania 7, and this one to me is kind of an underrated classic. I really, really enjoyed this WrestleMania. You would have the Big Boss Man versus Mr. Perfect for the IC title. You would have a kind of a squash match between The Undertaker and Jimmy Snuka, and a really good match between the Rockers versus the Barbarian and Haku. And of course, the big ones, the Macho Man Randy Savage versus the Ultimate Warrior, a phenomenal match. And you would have Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter. To me, again, underrated. So I'm actually going to put this in pretty damn good. All right, WrestleMania 8, man, the Hoosier Dome. And this is another one that kind of gets crapped on a lot. Which, I mean, I will say there is a reason for this. On this one, like starting out, we get Tito Santana versus the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, which is a pretty solid match. And I actually like The Undertaker versus Jake Roberts. I know a lot of people think it's boring, but I actually enjoyed it. There's a underrated classic on here, Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper. This, to me, is the best Roddy Piper match you'll ever see. You would have Randy Savage versus Ric Flair. Unfortunately, in the middle of the card here, for some reason, for the WWF Championship. This is a 10 out of 10 classic. Two of the best to ever do it. Go in the ring, man, and put on a hell of a show. So please go out of your way to watch those two matches. Now, here's where it gets bad and brings the show way down. The main event that night was Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice, and just a disaster of a match. There's miscues. Sid kicks out of the leg drop because Papa Shango's supposed to come in and interrupt him, and then the Warrior comes out. It all ends in like a disqualification, and that's your main event for WrestleMania 8. With that said, I don't know what I want to do with this one. If for the two great matches and some of the better mid-card matches, I'm going to put it in the middle of the road. All right, now we get on to WrestleMania 9, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick this here. I don't know what went wrong on this one. You would get Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka and the Steiners versus the Head Shrinkers. And after those matches, y'all, just cut it off. Giant Gonzalez versus Undertaker match is one of the worst, if not top 5 worst, in history of WrestleMania. And ain't the Undertaker's fault, man. The Undertaker was just trying to do what he could. That match is brutal and probably the worst streak match. I will say Bret versus Yoko wasn't bad. It was very short, but the ending to that is why I got to put it in Who the Hell Booked This, because the ending, as we all know, Hulk Hogan comes out, beats Yokozuna in 20 seconds, the biggest heel in the company, and he's a new world champion. Just why? Especially when you're trying to really transition your company to the younger talent. But oh well, whatever, man. Moving on. So that brings us into WrestleMania 10, and I love this WrestleMania. In fact, I'm already just going to stick it up in Epic. Because you would get Bret versus Owen, best opening match in WrestleMania history, still to this day. The rest of the card was pretty cool, too. You would have Randy Savage versus Crush and a no disqualification match. And you would get Lex Luger versus Yokozuna, which is a stellar match. It did what it needed to do to get to that main event. But then you'd have the iconic ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental Belt. It is one of the greatest matches ever in WrestleMania history. Like, it is easy 10 out of 10. And one of the most important matches in wrestling history. And then we would get the main event, and it'd be Bret versus Yoko again. This time, the right thing happened. Bret won, everybody hoisted him up on their shoulders, and everything was right in the world. And it was great. Moving on to WrestleMania 11. Again, I know exactly where I'm putting this. This WrestleMania is very hard to get through. The only really decent match on here is Shawn versus Diesel, and the rest of it, I can't recommend any of it. I really can't. Because poor Undertaker, again, he has to go up against the King Kong Bundy. Like, this is one of those WrestleManias that, honest to God, you could have put it on Raw and it'd been just the same reaction. Not only that, WrestleMania 11 as a main event is not for the WWF title. It's actually Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, shout out to Bam Bam, because he did make this match work, and it's a lot better than you would think it would be. But again, who the hell is booking this? You have an NFL star in your main event at WrestleMania, and on the undercard is the actual WWF Championship match between Diesel and Shawn? No, just no. All right, so going on to WrestleMania 12. This WrestleMania is kind of a mixed bag for me. Because on one hand, I mean, it has my favorite match of all time on it. Brett versus Shawn Iron Man match is, I mean, to me, the greatest wrestling match of all time. But the rest of the card, though, I mean, you would get Ultimate Warrior come back and squash Triple H in a know-nothing match. You would get to see the debut of Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. Then the backlot brawl with Rowdy Piper and Goldust, it was fun, but it wasn't really a match. It took place like in between matches. Like you would get certain segments outside, and like then they finally get to the ring, and I don't know, it's fun, it was cool, but it's not really something I would go back and watch. The streak match here was The Undertaker versus Diesel, which I would say is pretty good, and like finally Undertaker got someone he could work with. But as an overall show, I'm probably gonna put this at middle of the road. I may be being a little bit too nice to that, mostly because my favorite match is on it, but I won't be too nice about this one. WrestleMania 13, again, it's really one match. It's Stone Cold versus Bret Hart in the legendary submission match, which is actually going into the Hall of Fame this year. Watch that match. Don't bother with the rest of the pay-per-view. There's nothing really much to see. Now, WrestleMania 14, man, this WrestleMania is very near and dear to my heart. I was growing up, man, and you really had the tides turning here. We're going into the Attitude Era. Like, Austin's on fire. The Rock's coming up. You know, we got Kane now. We got the Undertaker's a bit darker. There's a lot of really cool things going on in the wrestling world. We got Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European Championship, which I thought was a pretty good match. And then The Rock versus Ken Shamrock for the IC title match, I thought was really good. And then we got Undertaker versus Kane. We got a really fun match with Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie versus New Age Outlaws in a dumpster match. And our main event was Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin with the special enforcer Mike Tyson. So yeah, I'm calling this epic. I love this Mania. WrestleMania 15. Now, this is another one match Mania to me, because you got the worst Hell in a Cell match ever between the Big Boss Man and Undertaker, where literally Boss Man gets hanged. Literally. Yeah, Bart Gunn versus Butterbean in a match no one ever asked to see. But this one's known for the first main event match of The Rock and Austin, which I will say is a great match, but it's not as good as their other two to me. So I'm going to put this in barely passable, because there's really not much else on here. Now we get on to WrestleMania 2000. Ugh. Outside of the triple threat ladder match, like, this ain't much to watch either, unfortunately. We did get Kurt Angle versus Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit for the Intercontinental title match, which was pretty good, but the main event kind of fell flat. It was Triple H versus The Rock versus Mick Foley versus The Big Show, and the kind of gimmick to this match was there would be a McMahon in every corner. So Triple H was obviously with Stephanie, The Rock was with Mr. McMahon, Mick Foley was with Linda McMahon, and then The Big Show was with Shane. I mean, you would think this match would be one of the top 10 of all time, given all the talent that's in here, but I just gotta say, man, it didn't really live up to what I was expecting. So again, I mean, go out of your way to watch that ladder match, but I'm gonna put this in barely passable, and I think a couple people might get mad at me for that one, but I mean, hey, man, I like what I like. And all right, of course, man, we got WrestleMania 17, and everybody should know where this is going. Epic. This might be the perfect WrestleMania. Like, I'm not even joking, man. Almost every single match on this card is good. Chris Jericho versus William Regal is great. Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit is a classic. Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon is better than it ever had any right to be. And then we got the classic TLC match with the Dudley Boys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian. And just 10 out of 10. And then the first Undertaker versus Triple H match, which is also phenomenal. And then one of the greatest main events of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock at the height of their powers. And yeah, I know the ending. Stone Cold sides with Vince. I get it. But overall, you cannot argue that this is not a good Mania. It is one of the best in history, period. Going on to WrestleMania 18, and this is kind of another one that's a mixed bag for me. Like, kind of towards the beginning of the show, I didn't really see much going on here. Like, there is some good stuff to look for here. And, of course, I mean, this one's known for Hollywood Hogan versus The Rock, which is a great match and a lot of fun to watch. The main event, Chris Jericho versus Triple H, it's not as bad as people think it is. I mean, the crowd was pretty dead for this one, unfortunately, because, I mean, The Rock and Hogan really probably should have main evented that night, just because that match is so huge. I mean, I don't see how they didn't at least think about it. But you would also get The Undertaker versus Ric Flair in a really, really good match. Also, Scott Hall versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Diamond Dallas Page versus Christian. So, I mean, I think it deserves its pretty damn good position on here. Now, WrestleMania 19, man, this is one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. And I'm not saying every match on the card's good. I mean, this is one of the worst streak matches ever. But hey, man, the rest of the card is great. Booker T versus Triple H, even though the wrong guy won, is still a good match. Stone Cold versus The Rock 3 was great. Hogan versus Vince was great. Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho is an all-time classic. And Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar. Like, come on, man. I mean, this is epic. So we're going into WrestleMania 20, and this one to me is saved by its main events for sure. Not saying that some of the matches weren't decent. Christian versus Chris Jericho was pretty good, but this is also that WrestleMania where we got the first Goldberg versus Lesnar match, which was just a 15-minute I'm gonna stare at you match, and it was awful. It's one of the worst matches ever. And then we get a rematch between Undertaker and Kane, which was not as good as their first encounter. But I don't think it was really the point to be. It's just, it was a return of the dead man finally. Because he had done the American Badass stuff for a couple of years, and we were all really wanting to see the dead man again. So it was really cool to see him come out with Paul Bearer. Now, like I was saying, the main events were fantastic. Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle was 10 out of 10 classic. Shawn Michaels versus Triple H versus Chris Benoit, again, 10 out of 10 classic. But unfortunately, the rest of the card kind of weighs it down, so I'm going to put it in middle of the road. Now, WrestleMania 21 is another one that I have very fond memories of because I think this is one of the greatest Manias ever, too. Because you get Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, which we get the very first Money in the Bank ladder match. Then we get a really fun match between Randy Orton and The Undertaker. The classic that is Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. Wow, what a match. And John Cena versus JBL. Good match. And Batista versus Triple H. So, I don't know what people complaining about here. I'm putting it in epic. All right, so we got WrestleMania 22, and another one that's pretty solid. I mean, there are some clunkers in there. The Money in the Bank ladder match is not as good as the previous years for sure, but we did get a classic out of Edge and Mick Foley in this hardcore match. It was crazy epic. Then Shawn Michaels versus Vince McMahon in the No Holds Barred match is very, very good. Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle versus Orton, I enjoyed that. The Undertaker versus Mark Henry in a casket match. Yeah, I didn't mind that match either. But, I mean, overall, I think, WrestleMania 22 is probably going to get the middle of the road here. Now we go into WrestleMania 23. Again, pretty mixed for me on this one. The main events were really, really good. It was Batista versus Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Shawn Michaels versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. Both really, really good matches. And then you get the Money in the Bank ladder match, which is pretty damn good too. But other than that, I didn't really see much to this one. It was cool seeing the ECW originals out there, so that was pretty cool to me. And of course, we get the Battle of the Billionaires with Donald Trump and Vince McMahon. Probably what this WrestleMania is most famous for. It's okay match. I mean, as far as they would each get to pick an opponent. It was Umaga versus Bobby Lashley, and it was more fun than anything. It was fun seeing Austin shave Vince McMahon's head. Overall, I'm just gonna put it in the middle of the road too. WrestleMania 24 is pretty good. There's an underrated classic on here for sure. John Bradshaw Layfield versus Fit Finlay. Man, that's a really, really hard-hitting good match. We get another, Money in the Bank ladder match is pretty damn good. Batista versus Umaga was all right. Then, of course, the classic of Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. And the retirement match was awesome. I actually enjoyed the Floyd Mayweather and Big Show match. I thought it was fun. And then, of course, Edge and Undertaker, man. Really, really good. And then Randy Orton versus Triple H versus John Cena in a triple threat match. So I'm actually going to put this one in epic. Now, WrestleMania 25 is kind of hard for me on this one. I don't know where I'm going to put it just yet. But, we would get, another Money in the Bank ladder match that was pretty good. Unfortunately, we did get the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal, which Santino won, and just, Chris Jericho versus the old legends was cool. I mean, for the fact that, Ricky Steamboat and him really tore it up. Then, of course, a lot of people consider this the greatest match in WrestleMania history, which is The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. And it's hard to disagree, man. That match alone is worth just checking this out. Rest of the card I wasn't too crazy about, so I'm actually going to put this in... I'm actually going to put this in barely passable. This is really just one match that really holds this thing together. So, yeah, barely passable. In fact, speaking of which, I'm starting to think here, I'm actually going to put WrestleMania 6 in barely passable too, because it was very much a WrestleMania that just had one great classic main event. So, let's see. We're going on to 26. I'm not a very big fan of this WrestleMania. Now, you get Triple H versus Sheamus. Bret Hart's back versus McMahon. It was great to see Hitman out there one more time, but I wish they would have gave him less time. That match probably just a 5-minute match, and I think it would have been a lot better. Batista versus John Cena. It's decent. Nothing to write home about, really. Nothing to write home about, really. Then Chris Jericho versus Edge. Decent match again. I mean, nothing wrong with it. And then the main event, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker in another instant classic. As The Undertaker with Tombstone, Shawn Michaels, that was the end of the in-ring career of the Heartbreak Kid. Well, we wish it was, because that match, Crown Jewel, holy shit. I'm going to put this very much in the middle of the road on that one. Okay, now WrestleMania 27 is very near and dear to my heart because I actually was in attendance that night. This WrestleMania gets shit on is usually put into everybody's worst WrestleMania, and I personally think that these three right here are way worse than WrestleMania 27. Because WrestleMania 27, we'd get Undertaker versus Triple H 2, which was a banger of a match. I mean, easy 10 out of 10. Now, unfortunately, we'd also get Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole for 30 minutes. And for what reason did Vince think to put 30 minutes on that match? And also, we saw Snooki wrestle. That sucked. But CM Punk versus Randy Orton was really, really good. Rey Mysterio and Cody had a good match. You know, if it wasn't for that Lawler match and the main event didn't feel like a main event, it just, like John Cena versus The Miz, just did not live up to any kind of expectation. With all those offenses, I'm going to have to put this at barely passable. And I hate to do it. But it is better than these three. Now let me know in the comment section if you disagree. So now we're going on to WrestleMania 28. This one's a very, very mixed bag for me. The first part of the show I didn't really like. I didn't mind the Cody versus Big Show match. I thought that was fun. Did not like the Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan match, ending in like 14 seconds or 28 seconds. I can't remember. I really don't remember too much in there until we get to the three classics at the end of the night. The first one up is Undertaker versus Triple H 3 in a Hell in a Cell end of an era match. And damn, this is a great match. I would highly recommend anybody watch this. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, go watch it anyway. It's fantastic. And then we get CM Punk versus Chris Jericho, which I've heard both of them guys actually talk about that match and saying it's not one of their best, but I really enjoyed that match. I thought it was really good. And then, of course, the once in a lifetime, or so we thought, The Rock versus John Cena. And I love the ending to the match. It did everything it needed to do. It wasn't a crazy barn burner, but it was a lot of fun to watch. So but unfortunately, that beginning of the show kills it. So I'm putting this at the middle of the road. Now, WrestleMania 29, I'm just gonna go on out here to say there's only really one match that to me was any good, and that was Punk versus Undertaker, and that's a great match. And I will say the John Cena versus The Rock was all right too, but the rest of this show, nope. I'm going to put it in barely passable. So going on to WrestleMania 30. And this is pretty much the Daniel Bryan WrestleMania. You know, he starts it out of the night, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, and if he wins, he can go to the main event, which of course, spoiler alert, he does. He will go on to face Randy Orton and Batista at the end of the night. Then we get the rest of the card. We get a weird kind of squash match with the Shield against the New Age Outlaws. Then we get John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, which was a good match. I thought it was really good. It was fun to watch. But then we get, of course, the end of the streak, which to me, this is not a really great match. Now, to be fair, The Undertaker was concussed at probably the beginning of the match somehow. But man, when this happened, this is more about the moment than the match. It's kind of like what I'd say Hogan and Andre at WrestleMania 3. You know, that's that body slam, you know, that everybody knows. It isn't the rest of the match everybody else talks about. It's the moment, right? Then, of course, we get the main event, and it rocks. It's awesome. You know, Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Randy Orton was great. You know, he wins the belt. You get a great feel-good moment for Mania. But as an overall show, I'm going to put this probably in the middle of the road. I mean, a lot of people love this WrestleMania. So then we go on to 31, and man, I love this WrestleMania. It's going up in Epic. I know a lot of people are going to complain about that, but I actually really enjoyed the John Cena Rusev match. I love the ladder match for the IC title. That was awesome. And then I actually liked the Triple H versus Sting match. I just didn't like the ending. The wrong guy won. You know, Sting had been away forever and ever and ever. WWE can never sign him. He finally comes in and they lose this to Triple H. And what's more frustrating is that on this poster, you see Sting and The Undertaker on the same poster, on the same card, on the same night. And how do we not get this match? The Undertaker apparently said that Vince didn't see money in the match. What the fuck? How? That, to me, kind of proves that Vince is kind of losing his touch there. But anyway, I digress, man. Let's get on with the rest of this. Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins is an instant classic. Probably the greatest RKO ever hit. Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt's a lot of fun. I really, really like this match. And, of course, the heist of the century, man. Brock Lesnar versus Reigns, and then Seth cashes in, ends the night as the new champion. Everybody goes wild, and it's just a fun night, man. But the fun times are about to end, because now we got WrestleMania 32. Boy, oh boy. Is this one a dud? I will say there is some bright spots in there. The Intercontinental title ladder match is really, really good. And then another classic in here is Charlotte Flair versus Sasha versus Becky Lynch. And man, that is a 10 out of 10 classic. In fact, that was the best match of the night. But our main event was Triple H and Roman Reigns, and people booed this match out of the stadium. I mean, nobody wanted this. And then Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker was fun. It had, again, more moment-based, like Shane flying off the Hell in a Cell. It's pretty neat. Let's see. Dean Ambrose versus Lesnar did not live up to expectations. So yeah, again, this is just... I'm going to put it middle of the road. Okay, so moving on to WrestleMania 33. Now, this one, I've kind of soured on over the years. Like, I remember enjoying watching this when it was live, but I don't really go back to it. And the best match on this card, for sure, is AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon, which, I mean, wow. What a match. And Seth Rollins versus Triple H is pretty decent. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt was no good. Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. The Undertaker was just, he's admitted this, he was in bad shape, he had a bad hip. He really just probably shouldn't have been doing the match. I love The Undertaker, but and he's even said it. I know Roman now is a great megastar, but I mean, they really tried to shove him down our throats, and the fans just were not having it. The WWE fans were just not going to accept this guy. And really, for the rest of the card, I don't know, it was just okay. It was just okay, so middle of the road you go. WrestleMania 34 is one that I was so excited for, because we get the dream match in WWE, man, with Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles, and I was so amped for this match, because I watched the match they had in Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan, and it's so good. Please go out of your way to watch the Wrestle Kingdom match instead of this one, because it did not even compare to the one they had in New Japan. And also, this was a WrestleMania where it was extremely long. I mean, this was like a 9-hour WrestleMania or something. So by the end of it, you know, we get Lesnar and Reigns, and the crowd's dead. Nobody really feels like they want to be there. I remember, I think it was like 12:30 in the morning when they hit the ring. And the match just wasn't really all too great. Did get a cool moment with Ronda Rousey. That was a fun match. Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. You would get Daniel Bryan coming back for the first time, teaming with Shane. A squash match with The Undertaker and John Cena, which should have been a longer and better match. I mean, I really wish they would have had like a 20-30 minute barn burner, and this WrestleMania would be a lot higher if they did. So middle of the road. 35 suffers from the same thing 34 did. It's way too long. By the time Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda get out there, everybody's kind of just done. There was some good stuff on here, though. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre was good. Triple H versus Batista was a lot of fun. But the bad outweighs the good here, folks. Especially when it comes to Kurt Angle's final match in WWE against Baron Corbin. Now, why couldn't you just go get Cena? He was already on the damn card. What the hell are you thinking? I mean, seriously. He comes out and does this spot with, Elias. That was his name. You could have just had that match, and people would have been so much happier. The women's main event match was really good. Also, Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. There's some good here. here, folks. But overall, due to the length and just some of the more lackluster on the card, I mean, it's going middle of the road. I mean, there's just some things that you can just do without on this card. Now, WrestleMania 36, I'm actually not gonna rank this. It doesn't seem fair to, and this was the year of the pandemic. Be thankful that WWE put out something, because nobody else was, man. Everybody else is doing reruns. Everybody was scared to death, locked inside. So I'm just gonna give it that. Because it's really not fair to judge it based off, no fans here. I will say, go out of the way to watch the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match. It's cool. Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens was really good, and Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre was good too. So if you want to go watch 36, watch those. So 37, as I meant to say with 36, WWE finally come to their senses and made WrestleMania 2 nights this time instead of just one long show. I will say 37 is definitely a mixed bag for me. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins is pretty good. Sasha versus Bianca Belair is an all-time classic. Night 2, we had The Fiend versus Randy Orton, which did not live up to expectation. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. And oddly enough, Riddle versus Sheamus wasn't that bad. Then also for the women's match that night, we got Asuka versus Rhea Ripley, which is another great, fantastic match. And in the main event, we get Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan in a killer match. Again, like I said, it's a mixed bag for me. So I'm going to put 37 at the middle of the road. Now 38, okay, I know why people like this WrestleMania, because Austin comes back at the main event of night 1 and beats up Kevin Owens. Great. And also we get the return of Cody Rhodes and has a banger match with Seth Rollins. That's about all I can say for night 1. So then we go on to night 2, and I mean, honestly, the best match of the night is probably Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn. Edge versus AJ, to me, didn't really live up to the expectation here, and then the rest of the night just kind of falls to pieces. We get Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory, and McAfee would win, but then it's interrupted by Mr. McMahon, who's 70-something years old at this time, has a terrible match with Pat McAfee, and of course, Austin comes out to save the day. Vince takes probably the worst stunner of all time. Then the main event again is Roman Reigns versus freaking Brock Lesnar. I am so sick of this match at this point that I remember when it was live, I think I just turned it off. I'm actually going to put WrestleMania 38 at middle of the road only for the fact that night 1 was actually decent. Now, night 2, though, I'd put in who the hell booked this. So that brings us to WrestleMania 39. Okay, so we open up with John Cena versus Austin Theory, and this didn't live up to the expectations for me. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio was really good. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair is a classic. And then the main event that night is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos, and one of the greatest tag matches I've ever seen. So yeah, we're off to a good start on 39 here. And then we get night 2, one of those hard-hitting matches you'll ever watch. And it's Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. And man, what a killer match this is. And then we get Bianca Belair versus Asuka in a killer match. And then we get Edge versus Finn Balor in a pretty damn solid match. And then, of course, the main event was Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes won the Rumble. He's trying to finish the story, trying to win the WWE title for his father, and comes up short this time due to some bloodline interference. But overall, man, this is really where they got back on track. I'm putting this in epic, because the matches were so good. And it finally brings us to WrestleMania 40, and I'm already putting this in epic. I loved this WrestleMania. I thought it was good. Now, I know there are some stinkers in here. Good outweighs the bad here. As night 1, we get Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley in a classic. And then we would get Gunther versus Sami Zayn in a feel-good WrestleMania moment, and it was awesome. And then Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus The Rock and Roman Reigns in a blockbuster tag match to end out the night. And if Cody Rhodes loses, Bloodline rules the next night. So, of course, it loses. And now we're going on to night 2, and we would get Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre in a short but good match. It did everything it needs to do. It set up some stuff with Punk. It set up some stuff with Damian Priest. Then we get Logan Paul versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens in a triple threat match that is just awesome to watch. Then LA Knight versus AJ Styles, which was great. Io Sky versus Bayley, also great. And then, of course, the main event, Avengers Assemble. As it was Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes again. But this time, Cody has help. It's one of the greatest endings to a main event I've ever seen. And you talk about a crowd that just lost their minds when Cody finally got the 1, 2, 3 on Reigns. And man, it's just a classic all the way around. They've done such a great job. Even up to now, I'm excited about WrestleMania 41 and seeing what they're going to do. And there you go, folks. That'll do it. That was every WrestleMania ranked. So please, in the comment section, let me know if you disagreed with these picks. Let me know what you would think is epic and which one you thought was the worst. And please go watch WrestleMania. I cannot wait for this. It's going to be Saturday night and Sunday night, April 19th, April 20th on Peacock and Netflix. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications so you can watch me and Sean bitch about WrestleMania 41 after it happens. So, as always, folks, freaks, geeks, and nerds unite. Let's take over the world. Peace.